Hello, this is Caleb from Jacked Bike Mods, and today we're going over how to install the new OG controller upgrade.
So in the kit you get the controller that is plug and play. It has a USB port on it so that you're able to program it from a computer if you wish to change the settings. Your motor cable, which plugs in to the port here and has an MT60 connector to plug into the controller here. You also have your display connector, which plugs into these parts here. The data cable for USB so that you're able to actually program this thing if you wish to change settings. You don't have to. Assorted zip ties of various sizes. You also get this power connector, which makes assembly a lot easier. It has an XT30 connector on there to allow you to run whatever accessories you want. This end plugs straight into the controller, and then you also have your charge cable. So this plugs into your bike and a reverse polarity thing. So whenever you plug this into the charge port on your bike, if your red and black do not line up, all you have to do is unplug this little guy here and then they'll line up because this is flipped polarity from that one. And then you get flush cutters so you can cut those zip ties nice and neat and not have to fight with them. For starters, you want to go through and free up your motor cable on the top end. So we're going to cut all the zip ties running along this cable, and we're going to go hop inside of the frame, and we want to cut this zip tie right there to free up the motor cable in the frame. And then we're going to come down to the front, and we're going to cut all the zip ties running up to your display. My display is a little weird because I busted the button in developing this controller. But other than that, I'll be right back to you once I have all those zip ties cut, and we'll go to the next step. Now that we have all the necessary zip ties cut, I'm going to grab a 2mm Allen key, and we have two screws under here, one right here. Let's get that into focus. One right here and one all the way up here, and we're going to take those out with the 2mm Allen key. These are rivets, they do not come out. And then also in this step, we're going to go ahead and unplug the motor cable and pop this little silicone bit out like that, just so it's free. Now that we have the motor cable unplugged, this silicone bit out so that it's just free in a big hole there, and these two screws here out, we're going to grab a 3mm Allen key and remove this larger one. I'm going to pop this silicone bit out, and then I'm also going to pull through the cables and unplug those while I'm at it. If for some reason you don't have enough slack, that's why you cut these cables up here so that you can pull it down and have slack. So we're going to unplug these and unscrew this guy. Okay, I got that screw out that was there, all unplugged, and I'm going to take the screw that was in there and save it by installing it on the plug plate, just so we don't lose it for later. This is the new plug plate wiring harness. We'll set that aside. Now that these are unplugged, we're going to leave this rubber ring on this side. This is the display side. And we're going to then take these plugs, shove them in. Get them all the way in there. And now I'm going to flip the bike up for the next part. Okay, for the next part, we're going to take this grommet, either fight it off this plug, or just go in here and make a slit with your flush cutters or scissors or whatever, and just cut it all the way through so that it's able to then come off. And then we're going to slip the plug through this hole in the frame. We're not cutting the plug, we're just cutting this little grommet. It will be used again later. Now that all the plugs are in the frame, we're going to go grab your plug plate, which is this guy here. We have this JST connector. We're going to unplug this one. That is for your charge port. And then we're just going to grab the controller and pull it straight up and out of there. And that's the JackRabbit controller liberated from inside of here.
And now we have this nice big open space to work with and to install the new controller with. Okay, so we have the new controller out right now to prep it for install. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug your plug plate extension from the controller, and we're going to go right here, unplug the Hall effect sensor that goes to your motor cable. Just grab and pull it out like that. Unplug your phase wires like that. So now we have independent controller, independent battery wiring harness, and independent motor cable. We'll get to the next step in the frame. Now we have our plug plate bolt removed from the back so that we stuck there for safekeeping earlier. We're going to grab the charger plug it into the charger. Here's a quick demonstration of how to use the reverse polarity connector for the charge connector on JackRabbit, just in case yours does not line up. So whenever I take this end and try and plug it in, see how the red and black do not line up? That means I want to remove the extension. So the extension's gone, and then now I line up just fine with the red and the black. If you do not have these two lined up, you will not be able to charge your bike and you can damage your charger. Please verify whenever you plug in this plug plate to the charge port that these connector colors line up. We're going to take the motor cable, slip it in the slot. There's only one slot on the side, and plug goes down. Cables with ends go up and out on both of them. And with this together and that plugged in, we're then going to slip it into the frame in the slot. Just be sure that your motor cable goes underneath the ledge in here. Let's see if I can get that in focus. The cable needs to hop under this ledge on the right side whenever the plug goes in, and the plug plate lines up with these holes, and one of those screws fits into this back hole over there. I'll get back to you once I have that done. Okay, I have the plug plate in. You can see the motor cable running underneath the side and then also in that little cranny on the frame. The plugs and everything I have facing out over here and just coming out of the hole. And I went ahead and threw the screw in on the bottom of it, right there, using the 3mm Allen key. The next step is going to be to grab these guys, and we're going to fish them through the little hole right there on the frame by your charge port. And you'll want to turn your bars as far to the left side as you can, so you have as much slack on these cables to get them all the way up and where you can access them here. So we're going to fish it through, up, and out. Okay, now we have our brake cable, which is not necessary and will just get shoved into the front of the frame, and our display cable out, along with our motor cable, our power cable, our Hall effect sense cable, and this motor cable all popping out of this hole. We're going to take the motor cable, fish it through this hole here, so we're going to go inside the frame and make it pop out there. Okay, motor cable's out of the frame, so it goes, I've plugged it in already, runs all the way through. We have it running over here. It's in the way now, that's okay. Goes underneath that little tab and that little metal bit, and then comes out to these two connectors here. So now what I want to do is I want to push this guy in place and zip tie the motor cable where it's supposed to be. So put a few zip ties along this brake cable to secure it. That way we have all the slack out of the motor cable and we can pull the rest of the slack out over here. I'll show you how that looks in a minute. Now that we have the cables running into the frame, slack removed, grommet on, and running through without a bundle, we're going to grab your small zip tie. I'm out of them right now for video purposes, but this is essentially a small zip tie. You want to add a little hook to the end of it, so that way it can get up and under, and we want to go in and grab that little hole and zip tie this. So we're going to approach from underneath get it up into that hole, wrap it around, and cinch it down. Okay, we have the zip tie in and secured. I ended up approaching from the front this way with the hook, scooping it up and in, and then using the flush cutters to help pull it through the little hole, and then using the flush cutters to also help cinch it tight. But now it's tight, it's out of the way enough of the lock right there so that we're not going to get hung up on the battery. Ultimately, you can just choose to not stick the zip tie in, and you just might have issues installing your battery at times. So if you decide to not fight that, because it is the hardest part of the entire part, I'm not going to judge you. I did not run it for the longest time. Okay, now we're going to stick the controller on. We're going to plug this green plug into green plug for display, ensuring that it has wires plugged into this long port here and the ignition port there. Then we're going to take this 3-pin motor plug, plug it into the 3-pin motor plug. This however many pin connector here, plug it into the Hall effector plug there next to the ignition. You can either choose to leave this USB cable on or take it off. That is up to you. I'm going to leave it on because I plan on doing programming on this controller later. And then lastly, we're going to take this battery plug and plug it in. So once I get all that plugged in, I'll give you the next step. I now have all the plugs plugged in. I'm going to have the controller oriented in this orientation with the power plug running behind, along with the Bluetooth antenna, which is that little gray cable, the motor plugs in the front, along with display plug and USB cable. I'm going to take this, push it down. I do not want it to be on the bottom because it will get caught on your charge port that pokes up. So we want it to be more along this top line, and then we're going to shove it back and into place. Now, I'll see you once we're done with that. Here's a better analogy for the controller and what you need to dodge when sticking it in. So whenever you put the controller in, there's a good chance you're going to get caught on your charge port. So you need to make sure to lift it as close to the top as possible, up in the slot, and slip it forward. Otherwise, you're going to get caught here and it won't go all the way back in, or you'll get caught on the bundle of cables that likes to pop up right here, and those will get all bundled up here and you won't be able to get all the way forward. So as long as you keep it high, you can dodge them, and you can also pull the slack from these cables out and then shove them back in once the controller's in place. And again, that's the cables that go right here and then go all the way up into the handlebars. Okay, but that was real easy to stuff in there. I have my USB cable going out. I'm just going to tuck that on top of everything and push it in and out of the way. Let's get a better angle on that. So we're going to push this the USB cable in and out of the way. All other cables are out of the way of this plug, so we have a straight shot up without it interfering. These two power cables will just get pushed whenever the battery goes in, so I'm not too worried about them, but there's nothing else for it to snag on. While I was feeding, I did pull through the display cable and the other cable. If there's too much length when it comes to rewire managing, you can just shove these back up in there and then also just put this grommet back in place. And then once you plug the battery in, give it 5 seconds. You turn on your display, and then you'll give it 5 seconds and you'll be good to go. And that is a fully assembled one. This guy here is free floating in there. It is secure. It's not rattling around. But it's locked in. Cable's out of the way. So I have the controller in, and I was just about to cable manage, and I noticed this cable's tighter than I'd want, so I'm going to pull it back out, ensure that cable's on this side with a straight path, not getting caught up by your motor cable or anything else, so we have enough room to actually get this, because I don't want to be tugging hard and potentially unplugging something. I have enough slack on the cables now, so I'm going to slap zip ties all the way up and around this guy. I like to start from the top and work my way down. That way the excess just gets shoved in, slip the grommet in. What ended up happening was the cable was connected up twisted with the power cable. So I took that cable, I ran it back, unplugged it, ran it back so it's not connected while the controller was out over here. And while inserting the controller, I pulled the thicker of these two wires, which is the display cable, so that way the cable had a straight path back. I also stuck the motor cable on the bottom section here, so it goes motor cable, controller, and then on this back side is where the battery cable is. That allows us to have this nice clean slot in here, which again, the battery will push the rest of those cables out of the way. If you have any issues, let me know in the comments, and have a great day and enjoy the extra power. Next time we'll cover basic setting changes using the VESC app.